You're listening to the Nicole Berryhill podcast.
Hello, my friend, and welcome this week. I want to talk about that verse in Philippians 4:8. It actually gives us some very interesting instruction. It says to us, "Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things." So, the writer is instructing us and encouraging us to keep our minds focused on good, noble, right, pure, lovely, admirable, excellent, or praiseworthy things. That sounds like a pretty tall order in today's climate of constant negativity and presumed opposition, am I right? Then when exploring the idea of our thoughts, we also take into consideration 2 Corinthians 10:5. We run into a little challenge when it comes to our thought life. Not only that, we actually find the solution to that challenge, although it takes a little digging into the language. That verse says to us, we demolish arguments and every pretension that sets itself up against the knowledge of God, and we take captive every thought to make it obedient to Christ. Without boring you too much with the detailed hermeneutics here, what is actually being conveyed is that we should be thinking about what and why we are thinking what we're thinking. And those words that were translated here as taking captive and making obedient are actually a little more akin to the idea of taking each thought and leading it into a more Jesus-like frame of mind. Essentially reframe our thoughts in such a way as they provide us with the unconditional love and grace and power Jesus taught and paid for with his very life. That's very heavy stuff, and as it turns out, no small task. This challenge encountered in my own personal research led me to write my latest book, Heal Your Inner Bully, available in the link included in the description below. In it, I have provided detailed worksheet pages to go along with these lessons to help you take control of your inner narrative. I give you actionable homework to do every step of the way to empower you to take control of that inner bully and turn those thoughts into your own personal life success coach on autopilot. Super simple, proactive changes to your inner thought habits can and will change your life for the better. In doing this research, I was truly overwhelmed by the power of our thought life and, frankly, how much control we actually have over it, just as the good book has been trying to tell us all along. I'd love to share some of that work with you here. We're all aware of the statistics about bullying and how harmful bullying and intolerance can be. Bullying is painful and damaging to the person who is being bullied, the bully themself, and even witnesses to the bullying. It can have long-term effects and is just as common in adults as it is in children. But we have to ask, what happens when you're the actual bully and you're bullying yourself? We all have that little voice inside giving running commentary on our day. If you just thought to yourself, yeah, I don't have a little voice, believe me, you do, and that was it. Sometimes the voice is helpful. Remember to pick up the mail, focus, I need to finish this, be careful, that sometimes our inner voice can be a real jerk. For many of us, we're walking around with our own personal bully who lives inside our head and beats us down all day, every day. You're so stupid. How could you have missed that? No one cares about how you feel. You're such a hypocrite. You can't do anything right. Your friends don't really even like you. Bullying wears many hats like teasing, name-calling, mocking or taunting, threatening, leaving someone out intentionally, embarrassing someone publicly, and more. How often do we say absolutely cruel things to ourselves? How often do insults and self-mocking just feel like a normal part of our internal dialogue? Instead of saying thank you, how often do we minimize our own value in response to positive feedback from others? For me, taking personal responsibility for my inner bully was a real challenge. I wanted to say, it is what it is, I'm just being honest. However, when I took the time and effort to really explore my negative thoughts, I realized they weren't actually true after all. My feelings would be hurt if another person spoke to me the way I spoke to myself. I would never say the things I was saying to myself to anyone I truly cared about. Those statements were just plain mean. They were not helpful at all, and they were keeping me feeling stuck and alone. Standing up to our inner bully can be just as hard as standing up to an outside bully who's hurting us or another person. Understanding that our inner bully is really just an imaginary creature born out of the stories we tell ourselves is the key to healing. Change the stories, and a new, healthier inner voice can emerge. What stories are you telling yourself? Whether you are conscious of it or not, somewhere along the way you will have developed your own life story in your mind. The story we tell ourselves about our lives is a fascinating insight into who we really are. It includes the desires and fears that lie deep within us, as well as what aspirations keep coming up again and again throughout your day-to-day life. A lot can be learned by looking at this inner narrative, including how to overcome obstacles or move forward towards goals without giving into pessimism. Our connection with storytelling begins when we are children, and it continues long into adulthood. From assigning meaning to past events to editing out things that don't fully match our narrative, the stories we tell ourselves can have a huge impact on our lives. When we are young, it is easy to believe in our own narrative because the world has yet seen all of its secrets, and there's more than one possibility for what might happen next. But as time goes by, especially if life deals us bad hands, these beliefs start becoming less certain until they eventually fall away entirely, only leaving behind deep-seated doubt and fear which cultivated over many years from childhood memories lost or forgotten at best. The main things we will explore in this series are the stories we tell ourselves and why they're so important. You'll discover what your story is, how it affects other aspects of life like relationships or self-confidence, for example, then take steps you can take toward changing that narrative for good starting today. What is meant by stories? We all do it. We tell ourselves stories. Sometimes they are based on some assumptions, but there can be truth behind them too. In essence, you're living in your head-driven reality or thought life. The way you feel is ultimately determined by your thoughts. These mental creations impact the decisions that follow and in turn shape who we are, for better or worse. I want my listeners to know this. Our experiences in life happen because of something we decide on beforehand, whether it be fundamental belief systems like religious beliefs, thought patterns resulting from trauma experienced in early childhood, even toxic foods which alter brain chemistry causing emotional responses throughout one's body when consumed. Humans are magnificently complex beings. We all have different experiences in life, and these contribute to personalized thought patterns, behaviors, and beliefs. These thought patterns cause us to live in our own personalized world as we navigate life based upon the stories in our mind. So, what do these stories look like? Common examples of stories you may tell yourself each day include, I'm just not good enough. I'll never succeed. I'm not good at this. I should give up. You'll see that there is a common theme here. Most of the stories we tell ourselves on a daily basis are negative. The mind tends to cling on to negativity much more than it does to positivity. However, there are positive examples too. These include, I've got nothing to lose by giving this a try. If they can do it, so can I. I will work this out. If you have a more positive mindset, you are going to tell yourself more positive stories. If you're stuck in a negative mindset, on the other hand, your stories will be predominantly negative too. It truly can be that simple. The stories you tell yourself are basically just the thoughts that you have throughout the day. But where does this internal monologue come from? Well, we have an internal monologue. Our internal monologue is partly controlled by a type of brain signal known as corollary discharge. Its purpose is to help you identify the different sensory experiences that occur internally and externally. This signal helps you to hear your inner voice as you think, blocking out external stimuli. You can also use it to organize your thoughts when you can't speak out loud. The brain is a pretty clever organ, and we often use its ability to identify sensory experiences internally or externally for purposes outside of ourselves. For example, when you think about something in your head as if it were something else, such as standing on 2 feet, this type of illusion creates the corollary discharge, which helps direct our attention towards these thoughts so that they can be independently experienced without being identified solely through recall alone. Another purpose for our internal monologue is to use it to answer questions that we ask ourselves. It can help to identify potential solutions to the problems we face, or make them sound worse depending upon whether you have a positive or negative inner monologue. I often remind myself that everyone plays the what-if game in their minds. At the end of the day, it's truly up to us to make the decision whether we're going to focus on what if this thing turns out horribly, or what if this thing turns out wonderfully. These are some of the main reasons why we have that inner voice and how it directly impacts our daily lives. Does everyone have an inner monologue? While most of us do have an inner monologue, not everybody hears their own voice or has an inner narrator. Experts aren't sure why this is, but there is a theory that it could be down to how the dorsal stream develops. This is basically the language tract within the brain. If you can't hear your inner voice, that doesn't necessarily mean that you don't have an internal monologue. Rather than hearing your monologue, you may see it instead. An example would be rather than hearing your to-do list, you might be able to see it in your mind instead. For most people, their inner monologue is something they can hear. However, it's important to realize that not everybody does have one, and some may experience it a little differently than others. So, why does our inner monologue matter, and what kind of power can our stories have over our lives? Why are the stories we tell ourselves important? We all have a story that we tell ourselves about the way things happen in our lives. These stories can shape how you live your life and affect what kind of experiences are available to us. Let's look at some of the main reasons why the stories we tell ourselves are important. Stories can cloud our judgment. All too often, the stories we tell ourselves aren't fully true. They are based on our assumptions and beliefs that have developed throughout the course of our lives. If you believe these half-truths, it's going to severely cloud your judgment. You will make decisions based upon what you believe to be true rather than what is actually true. Stories can cause us to become ingrained in our thought patterns, making it difficult to see different points of view. If your judgment is clouded, you won't always make the best decisions. Stories can stop us from going after opportunities. One of the more harmful effects of listening to the stories we tell ourselves is that they can stop us from going after opportunities. It could be that you don't seek out promotion opportunities because you feel you aren't good enough, or you may miss out on life experiences because you aren't confident enough to step out of your comfort zone. If you don't take advantage of the opportunities that come your way, your quality of life is going to suffer. You won't move forward. Instead, you'll be stuck right where you are now. Our internal stories can wreak havoc on our mental health. Mental health issues affect over 1 billion people worldwide. It's amazing to think that a lot of these issues could be down to the stories we tell ourselves. If you are constantly narrating negative stories in your head, it's going to increase stress, trigger anxiety, and possibly lead to depression. When you are struggling with your mental health, it's difficult to live a life of contentment. Our stories can damage relationships. Another reason the stories we tell ourselves are important is because they can damage our relationships. You may feel like your partner dislikes you or that your friends find you annoying. This in turn could lead to you viewing your relationships in a more negative light. You may withdraw from your social circle or begin to resent people in your life due to how you think they view you. If you want strong, healthy relationships, you'll need to be mindful of the stories you tell yourself. Stories can even impact our physical health. It isn't just your mental health that is impacted by the stories you tell yourself. Your physical health can also take a hit if you are constantly negative. Negative stories can increase the amount of stress that we feel. Too much stress is known to drastically impact our health and well-being. It affects your relationships, sleep, anxiety levels, and it can even impact your life expectancy. By focusing on more positive stories, it helps to strengthen the immune system, eliminate stress, and protect both your mental and physical health. Stories impact our future. The things you tell yourself will have a huge impact on your future. They can affect the type of job you do, who you surround yourself with, how you spend money, and the places you go. Practically every part of your future is determined by the stories you are telling yourself right now. While that can be a scary thought, the good news is you can always change the stories narrated inside your head. This means you ultimately have power over how your future goes. Real life versus a story life. If the way that you feel and act is controlled by the stories you tell yourself, how do you know what is real and what isn't? This can be a huge challenge for those looking to switch from a negative mindset to a more positive one. The trouble with stories is that we often take them as fact. That is, you don't recognize them as being false or something your mind made up. This can make it a lot trickier to identify what is real and what isn't. If you're looking to distinguish between reality and fiction, there are some things you can pay attention to. Here, we will look at the difference between real life and story life, and the key ways to start living in reality rather than a distorted storyline made up in your mind. What is real life versus story life? Real life relates to things that are actually happening. Story life, on the other hand, refers to what you perceive as happening. So, it's facts versus perception. Well, almost. Your story life can reflect real life, but mostly in snippet form, so you'll have a grasp of reality, but your story influences how you see the world and the people around you. If you are living a real life, it means you don't let your inner narrator dictate what you think or feel. You are aware of it, but you can separate it from the truth. People living a real life know who they are, and they are typically a lot happier. If you are living a story life, you are led by your thoughts and emotions rather than facts. You don't have control over your thoughts and feelings, so they tend to dictate how your life goes. People living a story life usually aren't content with what they have or who they are. So how can you tell if you are living a real or a story life? Here's a few signs to watch out for. Fact-checking your story. To discover if you are currently living a story life, check the facts. How accurate is your story really? If it tells you that you aren't good enough, what are the facts to back that up? Now, if you suffer with depression or you are stuck in a negative story life, you might immediately think of the facts to support your theory. However, these facts often aren't facts at all. Instead, they are an extension of your story. What you will often find is that there are no solid facts to back up most of the negative stories you tell yourself. There may be an element of truth there, but no concrete evidence. If you can't find the facts to back up your story, then you aren't living in real life. Observations versus evaluations. In real life, you make observations about the things around you. You'll notice things as they are, forming an opinion based on fact. When you tell yourself a story, you'll take a more evaluated approach. Instead of just observing, you'll create scenarios, opinions, thoughts, and feelings related to what you see. The story life goes much deeper than real life, often working on perceptions rather than what is actually going on. Move away from the hypotheticals. Another thing you'll notice about stories is that they work on hypothetical scenarios. You will constantly think about things that haven't occurred yet, often getting yourself anxious or stressed out over hypothetical situations. If you want to start living, really living, then you need to focus on the here and now. Whenever you notice yourself going over a hypothetical event or scenario in your mind, stop. Remember to only concern yourself with what is happening right now. The power of positive stories. So far, we've covered the negative aspects of the stories you tell yourself. However, did you know they can be used for good? When narrated correctly, the stories you tell yourself can have a positive influence on your life. Simply by switching the narrative of your story, you could enjoy the fantastic benefits below. Improved confidence. While negative stories can tear down your confidence, positive ones can build it up. Repeating positive affirmations in your mind and talking positively about yourself will do wonders for your confidence and self-esteem. Never miss another opportunity. When your stories are positive, you'll grab onto any opportunity that comes your way. Even if you are nervous about the opportunity, you'll go after it anyway because you have self-belief. When you are willing to go after opportunities, you'll get to achieve your goals and potentially better your life. Helping you to be your own personal cheerleader. We all need someone in our corner to back us up. What if that someone could be you? The mind is a powerful thing. It can be your greatest ally or your worst enemy. When you follow a more positive narrative, your mind will soon start to fight in your corner. The great thing about this is that when you are your own cheerleader, you don't rely upon anyone else to make you happy. That gives you a lot of power over your life, and it also stops you from making poor decisions. Healthier relationships. If you want to strengthen your relationships, the stories you tell yourself are key. With positive stories, your relationships will flourish. There won't be as many disagreements. You'll feel happier about your connections, and you will have solid, healthy boundaries in place. Improved life satisfaction. If your stories are positive, you are going to feel a lot more satisfied in life. You will see things in a completely different light, feeling calm and relaxed, rather than stressed out and sad. You will also be a lot more grateful for the things that you have, making you feel even more content. So, if you want to become more satisfied in life, paying attention to the stories you are telling yourself will help. Better self-controlling. When you fill the mind with negative stories, it leaves you feeling helpless. Positive stories, on the other hand, put you firmly back in the steering wheel. You will have the self-belief and confidence to overcome your daily worries, and you won't let the what-ifs leave you feeling insecure or helpless. Better mental and physical health. When you tell yourself positive stories, it's going to have a positive impact on your mental and physical health. Mentally, it can help to build confidence, reduce anxiety, and decrease the chance that you will fall into depression. Instead, you will feel happy, content, and fulfilled. You won't spend time stressing about things that haven't occurred yet. The reduction in stress alone is a huge benefit. Your physical health will improve too. Positivity eliminates stress, or at least greatly reduces it. This is great news for your cardiovascular health, reducing the risk of stroke, high blood pressure, and heart attack. Studies have also shown that positive people live longer. This is likely due to a boost in immunity. So, if you want better mental and physical health, healthier relationships, and increased confidence, it's time to start changing your story into a more positive one. By now, you should have a pretty good idea of what the stories you tell yourself are and where they come from. Being able to distinguish between real and false stories can help you to avoid listening to that negative narrative and go after new opportunities. Now that you have a better understanding of the stories you are telling yourself, it's time to figure out if they need to be changed, and if so, how to do it. If you've enjoyed today's podcast, check out my book, Heal Your Inner Bully, available via the link included in the description below. In it, I have provided detailed worksheet pages to go along with these lessons to help you take control of your inner narrative. I give you actionable homework to do every step of the way to empower you to take control of that inner bully and turn those thoughts into your own personal life success coach on autopilot. Simple proactive changes to your inner thought habits can and will change your life for the better. Be sure to tune in next week when we will talk about the ways you can assess your inner narrative. And we'll cover many of the action steps you can take to change the stories you tell yourself into better stories that can serve you in much more wonderful, positive ways. In the meantime, know that you are deeply loved and appreciated. I thank you for being a part of this journey we're all on together here. You're important and you're impacting the world in wonderful ways every single day. Please be sure to take a moment to like and subscribe to this podcast so you'll be notified as soon as the next episode is posted. That's it for this week. I love you, and thanks again for listening. I'll meet you here again next week, where it's all so much better than we've been led to believe.
You're listening to the Nicole Berry-Hill podcast. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share on your social media to spread the love. Dr. Nicole Berry-Hill is an internationally renowned author, speaker, and expert on healing and prosperity of the whole person. Visit NicoleBerryhill.com today to claim free resources, purchase books, enroll in the ongoing masterclass group, or to apply to work directly with Nicole one-on-one.